Ladies and gentlemen, what is up and welcome to today's video where we're on my free-to-play account that I made about a month ago and I want to give out kind of some pro tips for beginners. So today I've got a list of 15, so if you've been following the channel, the live streams, over the last month and a bit we have done essentially a free-to-play progression series with lots of live streams and videos where we've gone from a completely new player to somebody that's already completed Act 4 and is on Master Mode in like a month and a bit, and it's been really straightforward, pretty casual gameplay, but via that and via this whole experience, I have kind of got that fresh perspective on what it's like as a new player that's not spending any money coming up through Marvel Contest of Champions. So I wanted to make a video, from that perspective and give out all the best tips I can to kind of new and progressing players. But anyway, that's the spiel before. Let's actually jump into some of the meat of the information. So this is the #1 tip for new players and every player out there, which is don't sell any champion that you get. Even if you get a champion you like, never sell any champion. This is for mainly two reasons. The first is points in the arena system, and the second one is when you get a second copy of that champion or a duplicate, it will give you shards towards the next tier of champion, and also quite a big chunk of ISO, which is essentially champion experience. And especially as you progress through the game and you're duping a lot of 3 or 4 star champions, this actually becomes one of your biggest sources of ISO for leveling up your characters. So it's incredibly important never to sell any champions, essentially for those reasons. Now, tip number 2 is a question that I get quite a bit from new players, and this is basically to clear up that champions cannot be upgraded from a star rating to another. So for example, if you upgrade a 2-star Star-Lord to his max rank and level, you don't have the option to turn that 2-star champion into a 3-star champion. So, it's a kind of a collection game on base 2 you get from crystals. You can't upgrade 2 stars to 3 stars, 3 stars to 4 stars, and vice versa. So just a point to clear up there. And the next one, tip number 3, very important. This is honestly something that just absolutely cripples new players in terms of their progression, which is do not buy featured hero crystals or premium hero crystals with units. This is mainly because you can get so many free premium hero crystals from stuff like Alliance events, Arena, just logging in, kind of the monthly events, and also via all of these stuff there's like guaranteed like 3 and 4 star champions and premium hero crystals and the featured ones. So the essential difference between the featured and premiums as well is that the featured ones are 50 units more, but they have a chance to contain like 2 new champions, but again it's a very small chance. In terms of the rough drop rates for stuff like premium hero crystals, it's about a 1 in 10 chance that you're going to get a 3-star champion and a 1 in 100 chance that you're going to get a 4-star champion. So for the units that you spend on them, they are terrible value, so really avoid any opportunity to buy these. Just do not buy them at all, because there are so many you can get free in game, and you really need to allocate your units in kind of the right manner, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through the video if you want to have some solid progression and find yourself getting places in Marvel Contest of Champions. Now, in terms of what to use your units on, you kind of have a priority list, and this priority list in my opinion is #1 Masteries. Getting a core strong mastery build is very essential, and we're going to talk on the next point about how to build your masteries up initially, but that's the biggest one, and you do need a lot of units to get a decent mastery build. So that's kind of the main focus on them. The second one is energy refills, which I think are really good to do if you have time constraints on certain events. There's always so much to be doing as a new and progressing player, both in terms of the monthly events and also in terms of the act and story stuff. And then outside of that, the unit should kind of be built for kind of a stash for some of the endgame content. There's stuff like Act 4, Realm of Legends, Act 5, Road to the Labyrinth, Labyrinth of Legends, that a lot of players need a bit of a chunk of units to get through. So yeah, it's very important that you continue to build the stash instead of wasting them on what are most likely 2-star champions, which you can farm very easily through multiple game modes. So that's something to keep in mind. Or you might want to just save the units for like a really, really good offer, because occasionally there are awesome offers that pop up for about 1,000 units, which we had one, what was it, about a few days ago, that gave you like 1,000 units as a 4-star Awakening gem, half a 4-star champion, and a few other stuff. And for kind of a new and progressing player, that is an amazing offer, and like at least 10 times better than buying units. Premium hero crystals for units. So yeah, moving on to point number 5, which is mainly revolving around 2 masteries in particular that you want to focus on immediately, which are these 2 masteries here, Parry and Evade, which are just so incredibly fundamental to the core combat mechanics of Marvel Contest of Champions. So Parry essentially allows you to, if you get a well-timed block when on the animation where the opponent is attacking into you, you can stun the opponent, and that allows you to get your in with 5 combo there. And Evade is when you're dashing back, that you automatically dodge anything that's being fired against you. So for example, like Spider-Man's webbing, or Cyclops beam, or any sort of projectile attack, you can completely avoid all of the damage by that, just by dashing back. Now, these 2 concepts, you know, they do take a little bit of time to master. So one of the things that I will put in the link of this video is a link to a friend of mine's YouTube channel called Dork Lessons, who has some amazing guides on how to parry and how to evade. And if you watch those videos a few times, you'll have kind of a basic understanding of how to do it. And honestly, if you can pick up these 2 skills from day 1, then you'll just have such an incredible advantage. Granted, it does take a little time to, you know, get familiar with these, but if you can, you know, focus on learning them, you're going to save so many units on like stuff like health potions. Well, you shouldn't really be spending units on health potions too often, unless you're really backed into a corner with that stuff. But yeah, it'll just mean you can clear content much easier, much faster. You can push yourself to do stuff that might be a little bit more challenging. So yeah, very, very important masteries. Now, the next one is in terms of how you spend your energy in game and kind of what to focus on. So the main focus for energy, in my opinion, should always be pushing toward kind of the monthly events. So roughly every 4 or 5 weeks, a new event appears, and it has kind of 4 different modes of difficulty. You have beginner, you have normal, you have heroic, and you have master. And the rewards for doing these are just so amazing, you know, especially if you can, as a beginner player, get to heroic and complete that quite quickly. But in terms of, you know, what you should focus on, I would say never worry about exploring the beginner mode, but always complete it on the quickest and easiest path for the basic rewards plus units. In terms of normal, for some players it makes sense to 100% explore it, but you should always complete normal to try and get the units and the rewards there. But yeah, it depends how ambitious you are. You know, if you're not like really savvy with the combat mechanics, you might want to stay in your comfort zone and farm normal for a month or 2. But you know, if you can get confident with parrying and evading, you can progress onto heroic really, really quickly, and then 100% complete that. And if you can do heroic 100% and complete that, you get like half a 4-star crystal. So yeah, and like by the 2nd month, you can have a fully formed 4-star champion just from doing the monthly events, and then maybe progress on to master after that. But the general kind of like guideline for difficulty is like Act 2 is about the same as normal. If you can do Act 3, you can do heroic, and then Act 4 and master. I would say master's maybe a little bit more difficult than some elements of Act 4, but we do prove every month on this channel that it is possible to do the master modes just using 3-star champions if you know, have a good knowledge of the game and you have the skills required to do so. So yeah, some interesting stuff to bear in mind. But yeah, I'd say very much focus on the monthly events, because they have a time window, whereas the story quest stuff, that you can go to that any time that you want. So just important to keep that in mind. So the next one is Arena. I just put that down there. Arena is just so incredibly rewarding. They're essentially like I guess, 3 cycles of arena. So, what is it? Thursday to Sunday, you have, like, the champion round 1, and then Sunday to Monday, depending on your time zone, you have, like, this Crystal Cornucopia arena, and then, Monday to Thursday, you have the second round of the champion. So, yeah, you just want to be pushing as much as you can in terms of arena. Let me see if I can quickly get up the completed arenas, just to show you what I do on this account. So, the Summoner Trials arena, just a great one to make as much headway as you can in, and then the 3v3 one with the 2-star and 3-star champions, just get as far as you can in that, because the milestone rewards and the rewards that you get from the rank stuff are just absolutely amazing. Again, so many shards, so many units on offer via both the milestones and arena crystals. Those can give up to, I think it's 45 units maximum per crystal, which is quite a big chunk, you know, so some good stuff going on there. Also the chance of getting 3 or 4-star Punisher in the Arena Crystal as well, and 3-star Punisher is an incredibly strong champion, very, very high damage output. So yeah, he's one of my favorite champions to play. Maybe not necessarily the best, but he's definitely quite a badass. So tip number 8 is join an active alliance. What do I mean by an active alliance? You want to make sure you have at least 20 players in your alliance that have been online in the last 24 hours. So, you know, if you go to your alliance, you'll be able to see when people have last logged in. And then when it comes to what you should be doing in alliance, you want to make sure that you're participating in alliance events, alliance quest, which will give you upgrade materials, and alliance war, which will give you shards to get more champions and more crystals. And also, once you're in an alliance, you can start getting a daily alliance crystal via loyalty, which is found down at the bottom, and this just gives you like a load of boosts and stuff, which can be very useful to store for some of the end game stuff, and also a chance at a 3-star or 4-star Unstoppable Colossus. And he's, you know, maybe not the best champion, but quite good to add to your roster. So, you know, it's a good idea to purchase those on a daily basis. And then we move on to, what is it? Tip number 9, which is have a look at the champion tier list on the channel. So pretty much every roughly like month or two, I update something I call the champion tier list, which is just a very rough list to show how different champions compare to each other in terms of power level. So I have like stuff like the god tier champions, which are champions that are just way too overpowered, demigod tier champions, which are almost at that level but not quite, and then scaling downwards. So that's to give people a very rough idea of which champions are good and which ones aren't. But every champion there's so much depth and complexity to this game, which I really love. So every champion has matchups where they'll be good, and every champion has matchups where they won't be necessarily the best option. So yeah, that's just to give you kind of a rough idea in terms of, you know, if you got these 3-star champions, which one should I pull my upgraded resources into? So yeah, definitely kind of, you know, keep that in mind, and it's definitely a good reference point. The number 10, which is something also to keep in mind, is that there are counters to most things in the game. So this is one of the things that I see quite a bit amongst newer and progressing players, is they'll reach a certain point in the story or in the monthly event where they'll find like a certain mechanic, maybe a boss is healing quite a bit, and they'll just absolutely rage that this is completely impossible. There's just no way you can do it. So one of the things to keep in mind is just how many counters there are in the game. If you really look into some of the champions' abilities, there are a lot of champions that have mechanics like heal block, there are champions that have stuff like regeneration, a lot of power control champions that can either drain power from the opponent, limit the power gain, or completely lock their power gain. There's stuff like nullify to remove buffs, and stuff like fate seal to prevent buffs from being applied, and also stuff like ability accuracy reduction, which will essentially reduce the chance of stuff triggering when you attack into an opponent. So an example of this, if you fought an awakened Spider-Man and he is evading quite a bit, there are ways to completely negate that or heavily reduce that. So yeah, just like to keep in mind early on that there is so much depth to this game, and that champions have a wide array of abilities, but until you get to the really end game stuff, everything is pretty manageable and pretty easy to do, providing that you have you know, basic knowledge of what certain champions can achieve. And the next thing is, if you are stuck, you know, if you've just lost all hope, I definitely suggest using YouTube, Reddit, and maybe maybe Google as well. I think YouTube and Reddit are the two places where there is the most solid information out there on Marvel Contest of Champions. I feel like a lot of stuff gets lost in discussion on Facebook, and on the forums, stuff tends to go off the rails a little bit, but the way kind of YouTube and Reddit are set up is that a lot of the logical stuff will rise to the top, and a lot of the best content out there tends to get upvoted. So yeah, those are two really great resources to use in my opinion. Reddit community, very helpful, a lot of incredibly knowledgeable people, and yeah, amongst the YouTube community there are a ton of YouTubers that do have a very good handle on the game. So you know, if you're stuck on any quest or anything, like I'd suggest, you know, googling that quest and just figuring out how to, you know, how other people have dealt with the champions. And usually when I'm doing stuff like initial content clears and master mode run-throughs, I will try and break it down like fight by fight, you know, exactly what I'm trying to achieve in this fight and what I'm trying to counter to kind of help new players out. So the freestyle master mode challenges, they're pretty good to watch if you're looking to get a little bit more knowledge on the game. So the next thing is the solo events and how you should pay attention to these. So these are events that kind of rotate. You've got 22-hour ones and you've got 7-hour ones, and you want to pay very close attention. There'll be different stuff like level up, do arena, use heroes, and what is the other one? Do event quest as well. And if you can time your activities and tie them into these events, they can be so incredibly rewarding, because they'll give you stuff like upgrade materials, signature stones for various characters. You'll also get these greater and lesser solo crystals, and these are quite valuable because these can give free start awakening gems, and especially if you get to in the top, 20%, you can guarantee that you get a generic free start awakening gem. Which if you really focus on one event in particular and maybe hold your resources for a little while and go ham on that, you know, it's quite easy to get a free star generic awakening gem, and that can make a big difference if you've got one of the god tier champions as a free star that needs to be awakened to be good. If you can awaken that champion, like, honestly, it can give you a really huge advantage. So you know, pay attention to solo events and try to play those as smartly as possible. It's definitely some pretty decent advice there. And the next piece of advice is number 13. We have, once you've got a solid team for clearing the content, so you know you've got a team of 5 that you're fairly happy can take on the majority of challenges, you want to focus on getting as many free star champions to rank to level 20 as possible, and this will allow you to completely mop up the free star arena using something called the infinite streak, which is essentially where you queue with champions over a certain power level, and you can just keep on going and not have to reset the streak because you've got super easy matchups. And that's available in pretty much every arena in the game, but for beginners and progressing players, you don't really want to focus too much on upgrading the 2 stars because they're not really going to do anything. So yeah, focus your resources on 3 star champions and get them, you know, as many of them as you can to rank to level 20, and then you can clear up in that arena, pretty much get any new featured 3-star champion you want while you're in the beginner and veteran brackets. And you know, I'm very much of this philosophy of like a demigod tier, or you know, what I classify as a demigod tier or god tier 3-star champion can be a lot better than, for example, like a 4-star champion that's all the way up at rank 4 level 40 but is a fairly like average champion. There are some honestly like nuts champions in the game, and if you can get hold of one of them as a 3-star and get it awakened and all the way up, then yeah, it's gonna do a lot for your progression for sure. And the next one is really about some of the daily quests that are on offer, mainly about the daily proving grounds. So this is my kind of advice in terms of like which one you should focus on. So if I just quickly go to the event quest to point out which ones I'm talking about. So the daily proving grounds, in terms of the basic one, I think the T2 one is by far the most important, because again, it's mostly like in the beginner bracket and veteran brackets until you get a lot of 4 stars. It's you need so many T2 basics. So try and do that one 100% every day. If you can push on to the hard one as well, and you have, you know, a lot of 4-star champions or 3-star champions you want to take up to those higher ranks, then that's really good to do. But that's more intermediate advice, I would say. But for beginner, definitely try and get medium hammered out 100% every day. And then when it comes to the daily class quest, try and do easy and medium 100% every day that you can, because it's very, very important. I would especially prioritize the days that are mutant and the days that are mystic, because in my opinion, and well, I'd say it's pretty widely known that the majority of the best characters, and there are lots of really, really good characters in both the mutant and mystic class. So, if you get a character from either one of those classes, there's a really good chance that'll be a character that you want to kind of fully upgrade and kit out. So yeah, I definitely focus on Mutant and Mystic, but try and keep all of your Catalyst from both the T1 and T2 at max capacity, which is 4 of the T1 and 6 of the T2, but potentially, maybe, if you're getting a lot of champions, overgrind on the Mutant and Mystic ones. But yeah, that would be my advice there. And the final point, number 15, is really, this one is aimed at people that might want to drop a little bit of cash at the game, and that this is a bit of early advice on it. So if you wish to spend money, you'll gain the most benefit by spending it immediately, because that will allow you to gain an advantage in the early beginner brackets. If you're expanding your roster a little bit faster, then you can essentially dominate the leaderboards and stuff and get all the good rewards, and mainly maybe very quickly move up to farming the 4-star basic and featured champions in the beginner and intermediate brackets, which are very, low-hanging fruit. If you can spend a lot of money, you can make a huge advantage in there. But in terms of, what is worth spending money on in this initial bracket, I would say pretty much all of the brand new 14-day offers are worth it for beginners. So there are free offers, I believe. There's a 2-star Deadpool one, a 3-star Deadpool one, and a small premium bundle. And this might be all you need to buy to get a decent head start, because, if you get that 3-star Deadpool, like, immediately as you start playing, that's a pretty good advantage, especially if you can get him awakened. Has absolutely insane regeneration, and it will get you through pretty much all of the, well, you could easily, I mean, a skilled player could get through Act 4, if you could get Deadpool and awaken him, get all the way through Act 4 with that character. So yeah, interesting stuff there. But aside from those offers, you most likely don't want to buy any regular premium or featured hero crystals. Again, they're just not great. They're just such terrible value, even for newer players. Like, the amount you'll have to spend on those to actually get something decent, it's just not worth it, in my opinion. The drop rates are just so awful. I would instead spend the units on energy refills to progress further in the monthly event quest, progress further in the story, and just essentially get as much work done there as I could. And then, aside from spending units on energy refills, I would wait for maybe a good offer to appear. Again, as a newer player, you don't have a really great grasp on what constitutes as a good offer, but you can find very insightful thoughts on offers, usually on Reddit or YouTube. On the majority of offers, I tend to do YouTube video, or you can kind of throw it out there. I mean, Facebook as well is a place that you potentially throw out there for thoughts, but I would say definitely Reddit is probably the better place to ask questions if you want answers from experienced and fairly knowledgeable players. I guess you have people that maybe don't know what they're talking about on both platforms when I'm talking about Reddit or Facebook, but, having been a member of the pretty much every Facebook community on Marvel Contest of Champions for about a year, and this is just a bit of tentative advice, there are about, I'd probably say about 10% of people in those groups really know what they're talking about, but there's so many people, man, giving out terrible advice that, like, I've just, oh man, I struggle to read through a lot of the Facebook comments half the time, and it's not moderated in a way like Reddit, where people can, downvote the bad information and kind of get that buried to the bottom, and the good information that's, is the general consensus, and the right stuff a lot of the time gets put to the top. So it's a bit of a shit show there, but the forums, yeah, not really a great place for advice either. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I digress. I've chatted for so long. Very long video, like 20-something minutes, but hopefully it's packed full of very useful information that you beginners can use to get a head start on the game. So yeah, really awesome stuff. And in terms of additional beginner guides, I'm going to be working on stuff in the next week or so, talking more specifically about mastery setups and how to build your masteries as a beginner, what are some of the essentials there. But if you do have any additional tips any requests for guides, any information that you'd like to know, please do leave any request in the comments below. I will be revisiting this video just to kind of, you know, get some opinion and see what people are maybe still a little bit curious about, and see if, you know, any big questions are rising to the top. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this video. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.